everybody, what's up? It's SnakeK234. This is Star Wars Battlefront 2, and this is officially my first ranking of heroes and villains. So before we get into it, I recognize that a lot of you guys are new players and may not know the heroes I'm talking about. That's why I'll describe them to you fully in detail. So that being said, let's get on with the video. So at the bottom of this list, in 22nd place is BB-9E. BB-9E is like a support droid of the dark side, and he has 3 abilities: Charge Up, which is basically turning off weapon overheating for himself and other allies; Electric Shock Thing, which basically is like a giant radius blast of electricity that damages people and discharges their weapons; and a smoke screen, which reveals allies and prevents them from using their scanner. Now, the reason I put BB-9E at the very bottom is because it's more of a support, like a reinforcement type thing. It's not really a hero. The shock prod is really not that good. It doesn't do too much damage. The smoke screen is alright, I guess. The charge up isn't really helpful. It only works for a short amount of time, and yeah, and then the electric shock thing is not that bad, to be honest, but it could be better. And at 21st place is BB-8. BB-8 is similar to BB-9E, it's more like a counterpart, and the abilities are very similar. Instead of smoke screen, there's resistance backing, which reveals people and also deals damage increase to those people, making it easier to kill. Cable spin replaces the electric shock. It doesn't really discharge weapons, just does a lot of damage. And rolling charge replaces the charge up. It's basically a rolling charge. It's self-explanatory. Now, it's a bit better than BB-9E. The cable spin does way more damage, and the resistance backing actually deals a damage increase, unlike BB-9E's smoke screen. However, the same issues are recurrent within BB-8. Again, it's more of a reinforcement. The shock prod is like really low damage, and the cable spin is really good, I agree, but the problem is it's really underpowered compared to other heroes. And at number 20 on this list is Chewbacca, a big giant Wookiee who has a decent weapon of a bowcaster, which can kind of do explosive damage if you zoom in. He has a shock grenade, which basically shocks people while you can, destroy them. Furious bowcaster, which increases the power of his weapon and the explosivity. And he has a charge slam, which is self-explanatory. He basically charges and then slams onto the ground, pretty much insta-killing anybody in the radius. Now, the problems with Chewbacca are, well, Chewbacca isn't too bad. It's just that compared to other heroes, it's really underpowered. I mean, I got my own little issues. The shock grenade is not too good. It is really weird. I don't know why it splits into 3 before, in mid-air when you throw it, and half the time it pretty much misses. The aim is completely off. The charge slam is okay. It's just that sometimes it's really glitchy for me. The charge slam doesn't really work. And Furious bowcaster is pretty good. But my main issue with Chewbacca is that you can't scope out with him. It's really hard to, and when you do scope out and try to use your explosive shot, it misses half the time. So that's my reasons for. And coming in at number 19 on this list is Bosk, a bounty hunter with a pretty decent weapon. He has Dioxis grenade, which shoots out toxic gas, a Predator Instincts ability, in which he basically just goes grenade crazy with heat signatures on the thing, and he has proximity mines, which detonate if somebody goes over them. My first issue is with the proximity mines. The problem is they're all placed really close to each other, and the radius isn't too big. I mean, in a previous update, they would go all over the place. The radius would be like off the walls and stuff. It would look like a sphere, kind of, but I mean, after the update, it's kind of garbage. The Dioxis grenade is decent, yes, and the Predator Instincts are alright, but my main issue with Bosk is with his weapon. His Relby V10 is really inaccurate when aiming, and it just doesn't have a good precision crosshair that you can use when you're normally using things like snipers, which is what the Relby V10 is. So that's why I put Bosk this low on the list. Next up, at number 18 is Lando Calrissian. He has an X8 Night Sniper, which when you zoom in, shows heat signatures of enemies, which is pretty good. And he has a smoke grenade, a sharp shot, and disabler thing, which basically disables weapons, and it's like kind of like a grenade that you can let sit for a little bit of time. So the first problem with Lando Calrissian is his X8 Night Sniper isn't actually a sniper. It just zooms in whenever like when you zoom in, it'll show the heat signatures, but it's not actually a sniper. That's the whole problem. The pretty much what I'm trying to say is when you're trying to go for a long range, it just doesn't work. The shot kind of doesn't go straight out like a sniper would. It just kind of goes down a little, which is why I don't really like it, even though it's called a night sniper. The smoke grenade is kind of useless. It doesn't really work. Sharp shot is really good, but it can be deflected by a hero, which is kind of taking away from the whole point. The disabler is pretty decent, so that's why I put Lando Calrissian at this spot. Coming up next at number 17 is Iden Versio, a loyalist of the Empire who has a pretty good TL50 with an alternate fire blast, and she has a stun function, a shield function, and a pulse cannon. That's pretty explanatory. It's basically a sniper. So first of all, the problem with her TL50, her main weapon, is her secondary fire doesn't really follow the laws of physics. I mean, like, you expect to aim it higher to make it come down, but it just like goes really weird sometimes. It just kind of glitches a lot for me. I don't know about you guys. And her pulse cannon is, well, kind of useless. You know, I don't really use it too much except when I'm trying to snipe. But the interesting thing about it is that it doesn't have cooling. That's pretty decent. Stun droid, half the time it doesn't even work at all, so I barely even use it, but the times it does, it's alright. The shield is decent, I guess, but it could be better. I mean, since it's a hero class shield, it could, you know, have some extra health or let you fire while you're in it or something like that. But yeah, this hero, Iden, is not living up to the standard. Alright, and coming in at number 16 is Finn. Finn is a resistance hero who equips a standard EL-16 weapon. He has a Deadeye ability which locks onto a target, a Big Deal ability which basically buffs health and takes away weapon cooling for a little while, and an Undercover Team which gives him a pistol and shows enemies on his scanner. Now I've got a few issues with Finn. First of all, his EL-16 is like really slow rate of fire. I don't really like it. It's the standard blaster of the resistance. It could have some little pizzazz maybe or a higher rate of fire. It's just too plain. Now, Undercover Team, I don't really use it that much. It's kind of useless. I mean, a few things it could do is maybe use the pistol as a higher rate of fire, or maybe make the enemy's red outline show up on the screen instead of just on the scanner. His Big Deal is alright, although it could give you some kind of indication maybe on how much time is left or how long you can fire a blaster with unlimited cooling. And his Deadeye is absolutely amazing. The only problem is that when you're trying to get into Deadeye, it takes a few seconds, so you already have half your health gone by the time it's activated, and the time runs out even if you don't fire, which I don't think that's how it should work. Next up at number 15 is Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma is a decent hero, but there's a few issues. First of all, her main weapon is a F11D Sonblast thingamajiggy. I don't really know what it's called, but the heat vision scope zooms in way too much. And if you think that wasn't enough, she has a second scope that zooms in even more. And her weapon isn't even a sniper, it's a rapid fire gun. So like, I don't know why the developers did this. This is just straight up weird. And onto her abilities, her droid thingamajiggy that she plants, it's a sentry droid. I'm pretty sure it's a first order sentry droid. I mean, it doesn't really work. It takes a long time to rotate. It should be a little more effective and spin around a little more. And I don't even know why the spin thing is even there, but if it is, I would suggest a few upgrades. Her survivor is a bit weird. I mean, sometimes when I activate the ability, then take a look at it, the ability is already gone. And it doesn't tell you how long you have that extra health for, which I think it should. It should give some kind of indication. And she also has a Staff Strikes ability, which is kind of useless. I mean, it's okay, I guess. The third one knocks the hero back or whoever you're attacking, but it could be a little more powered. It's kind of underpowered compared to other heroes' melee weapons, and there could be something way better to make this more hero worthy, because like all infiltrators have some kind of special melee attack, and Phasma's isn't just really living it up. And this is a surprising choice, but number 14 is Yoda. Now, a lot of people might wonder why I'm putting a lightsaber hero so low. I mean, like, it's practically the halfway point, but I've got my reasons for not liking Yoda. He has a lightsaber, obviously, so I won't go into too much detail about that. First of all, his attacks are like kind of weird. He doesn't really swing his lightsaber, he just flips around, which increases the time it takes to do an attack, unlike other lightsaber heroes like maybe Luke Skywalker, where it's really easy to do an attack, but Yoda just takes too long. His dash attack, also the same exact motion. I think it should be a bit better, you know, considering that his lightsaber attack is pretty much the same thing as his dash attack, except it goes a little bit further. I mean, maybe they could change up the lightsaber attack. Also, the dash attack doesn't do as much damage as other people's things like Luke Skywalker's rush or Darth Maul's spin. And even if you go around for a second pass, it doesn't really work out. Presence is alright. I just wish it would have a faster recharge time, but no problem, that works, I guess, although it does put Yoda at a bit lower position. And now coming on to Unleash. Now Yoda is a bit special because instead of blocking like other lightsaber heroes, he has this thing where he can charge up his Unleash, but the charge up barely even works. It only charges up like maybe increases the radius. It's supposed to also increase the damage, but it really doesn't. I've held it for like the whole time, charged up Unleash to full, then blasted some droids, and it didn't do any extra damage, practically none. I mean, at full charge, it should pretty much be able to, like, one shot or so some certain enemies, so I don't get the deal with that. Moving on to number 13, Boba Fett. Boba Fett is a pretty decent all-around hero. He has something special, a jetpack, and not like a random blast jetpack like an Ariel. I'm talking like a full rechargeable, full-on jetpack that you can hover in air with and all of that stuff. Now, his weapon, EE3, is okay. The only problem is you're not allowed to zoom in for some reason, which in the original Battlefront, you could zoom in and still be in the air if you use like a different weapon, but unfortunately you can't do that, which makes it really, really hard to aim when you're in the air, and even if you're trying to snipe somebody out, so I really don't like that. His jetpack is okay. It's just that it burns out too fast. It takes a pretty quick time to refuel, and that's kind of a downside. I'd rather that it burns out slow and takes a while to refuel. That's my personal favorite. I don't know about you guys. And his scanner beacon or scan thing, is whatever it's called, is really, really nice, except for the problem that it runs out way too fast. Now there's a star card you can equip that supposedly makes it run longer, but that doesn't really do much. I've equipped that card and nothing has changed. He also has a rocket barrage and a concussion rocket, which are practically the same thing. I usually use the rocket barrage and I barely use the concussion rocket because it doesn't really do any damage at all, so I don't really like that. Another thing special about Boba Fett is his melee, which is actually a flamethrower. The problem with this is, in the original Battlefront, it was actually an ability that you could hold and activate, but the problem is, it just runs out too fast. It should be like something you can hold and activate. It could be another ability, maybe. I don't know, but that's my problem with that. Another surprising one is number 12, Palpatine. A lot of experienced Battlefront players may think Palpatine is like really, really overpowered and would be really surprised, but Palpatine in truth isn't too good. He has lightning on both hands. Even if you do aim, still lightning. Shoot, still lightning. No problem with that. Although in the original Battlefront, he could block using his lightning, which I really liked. But the thing with this is you can actually activate both hands at the same time when you're using lightning, which means you can do double the damage. But there's some kind of glitch in this because I've done this many, many times. And before the update, the recent Scarif update, and it was really, really good, but then after the update, it just kind of stopped working, so I don't understand the problem with that. His middle ability, Dark Aura, is decent, although it could do a bit more damage and have a bit more radius, but that's just my issue. And his Chain Lightning is alright, it's just that maybe it could do a bit more damage, like one-shotting people like it did in the original Battlefront, but that's just my personal problem with it. His Electrocute takes way, way, way too much time to activate. It takes like a few seconds, and by that time, a lightsaber hero perhaps would have already killed you. The interesting thing about it is that it's unblockable, just like Chain Lightning if you're a lightsaber hero who's blocking. So that's a bit interesting, although it is like runs out too fast and it takes way too much time to like charge up or whatever to activate the ability, so I really don't like that. Moving on to the number 11 spot is Ray. As I've showcased in one of my previous videos, Ray is really good, but she just doesn't have it. First of all, she doesn't have any abilities like that can do damage in a certain range. For example, like Luke's push or repulse, and Obi-Wan's push, and Anakin's pull, and Kylo Ren's pull, and Darth Maul's chokehold, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But she just doesn't have that thing that that pretty much every other lightsaber hero has. So that's why I'm not really favoring it. I mean, even Yoda has some kind of attack, and I put him lower at this list. But the reason that Rey is like really high, considering Yoda has some kind of attack, is because of the fact that she is really good for a self-trained fighter. Technically, her insight is very awesome. It recharges pretty quickly. I have no issue with that. And I just want to know that from this point on, there's no actual reason that I actually hate the heroes. It's just I think other heroes are better, or villains. So Rey is really good. Her lightsaber dash is also really good. Although when she crashes into an obstacle, it kind of stops. So I don't understand the problem with that. And I really like it. I use it to charge sometimes. And her mind trick is really awesome. I just wish it could do some extra damage. Like if you mind trick somebody and then attack them with your lightsaber, it could do a bit extra damage. But that's alright. The mind trick ability basically inverts your controls. I really like that about Rey. So this is why I think Rey is really awesome. And now moving on to the top 10. In 10th place, we have Count Dooku. Count Dooku has been criticized by many people, but I think he's really good. His lightsaber is pretty awesome. He has a pretty high hit rate, I guess you could say, not like fire rate. But his stamina isn't too good, although you can equip some star cards to fix that up. His middle ability, Duelist, increases the hit rate. I don't know how else to describe it. It increases the speed he can use his lightsaber. Really awesome. It's like really fast. You can practically destroy a hero. And speaking of destroying heroes, I'd like to move on to another ability, Expose Weakness, which basically just does a damage increase on the person you use it on. And if you kill that target personally, then it'll auto recharge, so you can use it on the next target and the next target. The problem with Expose Weakness is it takes a bit too long. Like he extends his lightsaber and then brings it back, which kind of takes a bit long. If you're looking at like corridor of enemies, say, and you want to expose weakness on all of them, it just takes too long. They'll probably already kill you by the time you get to the last one. And using Expose Weakness and then Duelist on a hero is really awesome. It can totally melt them completely, which is why I put Dooku so high on this list. His other ability, Lightning Stun, is decent. It really is short range, unfortunately, which is the problem with it. Although it does one-shot most troopers and some reinforcements, it is really underpowered compared to other ranged attacks. And there's a star card you can equip that'll technically increase the range. No, it doesn't actually increase the range. It only increases like the width, not like the actual range. So Dooku's really good, but this is my problems with him. And coming in at number 9, we have Leia. Leia is like the second to last blaster hero on this list. And Leia is really powerful. So some people put her at like in the underneath the top 10, but I believe that Leia deserves to be this high. Leia is really awesome. Her defender pistol can do a lot of damage to heroes if you're playing heroes versus villains. Her alternate fire is alright, although it takes a lot of time to charge up, which is like, I mean, compared to Iden Versio's alt fire, it's really quick to charge up. But Leia's alt fire can do a lot of damage, so that kind of makes up for it. Her thermal detonators, it used to be a flash grenade, but now she has 3 thermal detonators, which I think are really good. The only problem is that sometimes like it takes a little while before you can throw the next detonator. And her middle ability, which is rapid fire, she switches out her pistol for an E11, is amazing. I absolutely love it. It does so much more damage than the default blaster, which is what I like about Leia, because she actually upgrades the weapon, makes it more powerful, unlike other heroes like Finn. And then her right ability, Squad Shield, is kind of useless, but it does have this nice perk that I noticed just a few months ago, that it can basically heal anybody who comes underneath it. The only problem with Squad Shields, and with most of the shields in this case, is that people can enter through it, which isn't technically supposed to be the case. But Leia is a really all-around great hero. I always try to use her in heroes versus villains. She's really good. And coming in 8th place and the last blaster hero on this list is Han Solo. You guessed it. Han Solo is really powerful. His DL-44, although it does build up heat really quickly, even with the star card equipped, working against that, it is really high damage and it does a lot of damage. You can pretty much 2-shot or 3-shot most troopers. I really love that about him. It's a pistol. Obviously, pistols do a lot of good damage sometimes, but I really love Han Solo. His cooldown range when you're trying to activate a cooling flush is really big, as with most blaster heroes, so that's what I really like about him. Now, his detonite charge is amazing. You can activate it in midair. It'll do a lot of damage to heroes and it'll practically one-shot or one blow up, shall I say, troopers. And then his sharpshooter thing is really awesome. The problem is it runs out way too fast. Even when you're not firing, it also takes away time from the total time, but it does a lot of damage. I mean, like, I'm maybe not damage, but it does a lot of extra fire rate, and it can the problem with that is it can only, like, you can only use it on one trooper or something by the time it goes out. So I wish it would have a better time and slower time run out rate, however you can say that. And then his right ability, shoulder charge, is really awesome. It can one hit troopers and it does a lot of good damage to heroes. It can knock people back, and I also use it to charge when I'm running from one place to another. And all around, Han Solo is the best blaster hero on this list. I really like him. Now, from this point on, all the heroes are going to be lightsaber heroes. Number 7 is Darth Maul. Darth Maul is a pretty decent hero, although he just doesn't have what it takes to beat the top 5 of this list and the 6th place also. And he just doesn't have what it takes. His lightsaber throw is like, it doesn't do as much damage as it should. The way it should work is when you throw it, it can almost nearly kill a hero, or I'm sorry, a trooper, and when it comes back, it should fully kill the hero if the or trooper. I keep saying hero. If the trooper is within like the rebound shot, but it just doesn't do that. You're gonna have to like go up to the trooper and actually kill the trooper, or spin attack. Speaking of the spin attack is pretty decent, although sometimes you do have to come around for a 3rd shot instead of a 2nd one. But overall, the spin attack is really good, I guess. The chokehold is where I've got the most issues with Darth Maul. The chokehold doesn't do as damage as it should. The problem is the chokehold only chokes people for a small amount of time, then throws them away. At the very least, it should have some impact damage when the trooper or whoever you're choking hits like the ground. Sometimes it does, other times it doesn't, and it just doesn't do as much damage as it should, which makes it completely incomparable to the rest of the heroes and villains on this list. Now, moving on to the 6th place is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a great all-around defensive hero. He can block for a lot of time. I mean, a lot of time. You can block for a lot of time. I am going to emphasize that a lot. He's supposed to be a defensive hero, which I get, but I do have a few issues. First of all, with the all-out push, which is basically his push ability, it is pretty decent. The problem is when I press the button, it just sometimes randomly stops charging up in the range. It just pushes randomly, which is kind of a waste. It also is really narrow, which I don't really like. His middle ability, Restrictive Mind Trick, is way underpowered compared to others, which is why I put him lower compared to other lightsaber heroes. I mean, even Rey's Mind Trick is better than Obi-Wan's. At least Rey's is really annoying. Obi-Wan's Mind Trick just doesn't let you use your abilities, which doesn't do good. At the very least, it should have some damage increase, or maybe like give you an inverted thing like Rey does, but it's just not living up to the standard it should be. On his right ability is the Defensive Rush, which I really like. The only problem is you can't use it while you're blocking, only when you're like normal unblocking, or even when you're dodging. You can just use it when you're just sitting there doing nothing. And the problem with that is if you're trying to like go through a swathe of enemies, a lot of enemies, like a horde of enemies, and you're trying to block them, but then you decide to use Defensive Rush, you can't until you stop blocking, and then your enemies get like the half-second up on you. They get the 1-up on you, the half-second 1-up, and they can basically do a lot of damage. But once Defensive Rush kicks in, it is pretty good. It can deflect bolts, and at the end, if you re-trigger it by using the attack button, it'll do a pretty awesome attack at the end, which I really like, and it makes you go faster. And finally, we're in the top 5. At 5th place is General Grievous. General Grievous is on this list because he's kind of buggy a little bit right now, but those are the reasons why he is so good. His Claw Rush, I am not even gonna deny it, is amazing. With the new controls the developers added in the Scarif update, it makes it easier to control the Claw Rush as you run around, trampling people over, and sometimes trampling them a second time as they get knocked over underneath you. You can go in circles around hordes and swathes of enemies, and it basically just keeps killing them. And I really love the Claw Rush. This is why I choose General Grievous most of the times. Onto his middle ability is Unrelenting Advance. I don't really like this ability. People can attack you from the back. It should also deflect shots from the back, and it just makes you really, really slow. And yeah, that's my problem with it. People can just move out of the way, and you know, it's kind of hard to control sometimes. And his left ability is Thrust Surge. This ability is a pretty good one. It can pretty much one hit, should I say, one strike maybe is the better term, most troopers. But the problem is that it's really, really buggy in detection, and it only works if you're like actually pointing like the center crosshair onto someone, and even then half the time it doesn't really work. The range for it is really short, which I don't really like, but everything does have its issues. But General Grievous is mainly on this list really, really high because of his Claw Rush. But I do want to talk about his main attack, which is a lightsaber attack, and his blocking. First of all, he's really, really slow, and when you dodge, it doesn't really go you that far. If you're trying to jump and then hit your lightsabers in midair to try to get that extra boost, it doesn't really work, and his jump is also really, really bad. More like Bosk's jump, who's not even a lightsaber hero. And his stamina is completely horrible. I really, really don't like it. I mean, when you block 3 shots, your stamina's done. That's not my favorite part about Grievous, but the others do make him a formidable enemy. And now moving on to number 4 is Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker is a really, really good hero. Technically, he's the chosen one, meaning he should have a lot of force power, but this is like a lot of force power. Unfortunately, though, the recent updates have left him a bit buggy. Starting off with his normal attacks is really, really good, does a lot of damage. It can kind of melt other heroes and villains. And moving on to his Passionate Strike, it does a lot of damage. I really like it. It's basically like a really hard, heavy strike, which is amazing. I really, really love that. It does a lot of damage. It can practically, if you equip the right cards, one hit troopers and does a lot of damage to heroes and villains. In his middle ability, Heroic Might, it's just too buggy. The problem is that you can't really walk around using it, which isn't too much of a big issue, but it's kind of a game changer for me because, I mean, even if you walk slow, that would be alright for me. And the problem is, if somebody is firing at you, it's supposed to charge up the power of Heroic Might, like Yoda's Unleash. But the problem with this is that even if like you're in the middle of a droid army and everybody's firing at you, like I mean everybody, the whole time Heroic Might is active, then once you finally unleash it, it doesn't really do anything extra. That's my problem. His pull dominance is pretty good. I really like that and have no complaints about it. And now we're in the top 3. In third place is Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren, I mean, a lot of people might criticize me for putting him so high, but I really love Kylo Ren. When I'm playing heroes versus villains, his frenzy is just good enough to maybe kill the other enemy. It basically launches you towards enemies and kind of goes you into frenzy, and that portrays him perfectly. His pull is pretty good. I have no complaints about that. His freeze is amazing. I love it. It can basically freeze enemies in their tracks, and basically then you can use frenzy on them. The only thing with freeze, which I'm not complaining about, is that once you hit an enemy, they unfreeze. It's a pretty interesting thing. I don't really have any complaints about it. I guess that's fair. But Kylo Ren is overall pretty overpowered. I mean, I have zero complaints about it, and that's really saying something. And finally, in the top 2, second place is Darth Vader. A lot of people say Darth Vader is totally overpowered, but this is kind of half true. Let me get into the basics of that. First of all, he's super slow. That's like probably a side effect of him being a robot, pretty much a cyborg. But that's my problem. That's my main issue with him. He's super duper slow. I really hate that. His lightsaber throw is pretty good. It actually works the way it's supposed to, unlike Darth Maul's lightsaber throw, which I went over earlier. It actually works the way it's supposed to, fully killing a hero or a trooper if they're in range of both the going forward and coming back of it. His middle ability, Focused Rage, is totally amazing. It basically cuts his stamina cost in half and gives him extra health, and basically increases the damage you do also if you equip the right cards. I really love Darth Vader except for the slowness. And his choke is totally amazing. It can basically hold enemies and immobilize them. and they're basically taking a lot of damage. When I was playing heroes versus villains one time, this random Darth Vader randomly choked me, and it did so much damage, like practically 100 damage by the second, although I'm pretty sure it's different for troopers. But Darth Vader is really, really overpowered, especially with this choke and throw combo, when you choke somebody and use your lightsaber throw on them. But he's really slow, really bulky, and like, he doesn't travel as far if you use the mid-air lightsaber swing, but that's my problem. And finally, with the number one of this video is, you guessed it, Luke Skywalker. I've showcased Luke Skywalker in a bunch of other videos, including this Kessel video. It's my second no commentary gaming video. You can check that out later. But basically, Luke Skywalker is like a total monster. He's a total tank. His lightsaber hits are like really, really fast. Not like Dooku's, which is more offensive, but Luke is kind of like, it's like he's like hitting somebody really, really hard a lot of times, and he can just take out his rage, even though he's a light side hero. And basically, his push is pretty good. And only a small issue with it is that like it doesn't really one push, shall I say, other troopers. You kind of have to go in and finish them off with the rush. He has two of them, and they're pretty good. They basically, like, you swing your lightsaber around while you're dashing forward, and that's pretty good. That's better than Yoda's rush, for sure, and I really like that. His middle ability, Repulse, is totally amazing, although it has the same problem as Push, and the difference between Repulse and Push is that Repulse is like a giant radius thing, while Push is just centered on, like, one small triangle or so. But yeah, that's why I like Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is a total tank. That's why I put him at the top of this list. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out my other videos, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, so on the left here you can see my channel icon. That is where you can click to subscribe and see all of my videos and all of my content. On the right is a playlist. It's all the Battlefront 2 videos I've made so far. Be sure to look at all the videos and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.